1071 trampled dignity. After hearing Robert's words, Henry finally realized that he was just a nobody in Vadesia. Robert was right. Why would he, a commoner from Diatorian, have any significance in Vadesia? His existence was replaceable to Vadesia. He had thought that he could be useful to Vadesia. It was only now that he realized how wrong he had been. In fact, he couldn't have been more wrong. "Alicia, come here and sit on my lap. Let's have a few drinks," Robert said to Alicia gleefully. "Did you hear that, Alicia? Come and drink with General Valles," Grant said. "I, Alicia Stewart, may not be someone noble and upright, but I would never drink with the enemy's general," Alicia said with indignance. "Alicia, you'd better do as I say, or I'll have to be forceful with you. You'll only suffer then," Robert said with a hardened face. He was already feeling slightly irritated. Did this woman not know who he was? He was the champion of Vadesia. How could this woman disregard his flattery and even want to reject him? "Why don't you just kill me? I'll never give in to you," Alicia said coldly. When Grant saw that Robert was about to explode from Alicia's stubbornness, he instantly raged, saying, "Damn it! Drag that bitch over and make her serve him." "Yes, sir." Grant's men dragged Alicia over to Robert. "Let go of me! You bastards!" Alicia struggled as hard as she could, but to no avail. She was thrown into Robert's embrace. "Pour some drink for her as well. I'd like to hug her as we drink." Robert smiled. "Let me go, you asshole," Alicia spat. She didn't expect Robert to be this shameless. "Post the video of Alicia drinking in my lap onto the internet. I want everyone to know that the cousin of Caspian's wife had to wait on me like a lowly bar girl," Robert said excitedly. "Yes, sir," the Vadesian men said, as they took the portable camera out and recorded the scene. Alicia was agitated. She wanted to fight back, but found herself trapped in Robert's tight embrace. Robert looked at the camera and said loftily, "Caspian, you see this? Your wife's cousin is already in my arms. I'll capture your wife in 3 days. When that happens, both of them will be moaning under my crotch. Ha ha ha. Caspian, my good cousin-in-law, please save me. I don't want to be humiliated," Alicia cried out desperately at the video recorder. She was confident that Robert would definitely send the video. "Alicia, you'd better save energy to scream on the bed later. You must think highly of your cousin-in-law. He won't be able to save you. You should just stay here with me and serve me well. I promise you'll be able to enjoy endless wealth," Robert said with a sinister smile. Alicia became enraged, picked up the glass, and splashed the drink on Robert, covering him in liquor. It happened too suddenly. Robert, who was excited a second ago, was stunned. Everyone present gulped. Alicia was too fearless. She must have had a death wish to do this to Robert. "Shit! Do you want to die?" Robert fumed. The Hudsons were all frightened when they saw that Robert was angry. "A bunch of dickheads! Why didn't any of you keep an eye on her? Believe it or not, I'll have all of you kicked out of here," Grant berated. He could only lash out at the subordinates. The staff knelt on the ground and begged for mercy with their heads lowered. "Mr. Hudson Sr., please spare our lives," one of the staff said in fear. "General Valles, I blame these staff for not keeping an eye on that bitch, Alicia. Please, tell me, how would you like to punish them?" Grant turned to Robert and asked. Robert was originally in a good mood. Who would have thought that Alicia would throw liquor at him? What a bunch of trash. "Since there's no use in keeping them, why don't you just kill them all?" Robert said nonchalantly. Everyone from the Hudson family was shocked when they heard Robert's request. He was such a cruel person. The staff were all so frightened that they passed out. A few of them had even peed in their trousers. "General Valles, please spare us. Yeah, it was a careless mistake. General Valles, it's not our fault. Why aren't you killing that bitch instead?" "Yeah, it has nothing to do with us. You should be punishing her instead." The staff were begging out of fear. "Drag them out and shoot them," Robert said coldly. He was unmoved. "Yes, sir." The Vadesian soldiers dragged the staff out. "It has nothing to do with us, General Valles." "Mr. Hudson Sr., please save me," the staff pleaded desperately. They didn't want to die in vain. All they did was not keep an eye on Alicia, yet Robert wanted to kill them off just like that. It was such bad luck. Robert was also being too inhumane. Grant didn't dare to oppose. He would be the one to be killed if Robert got really offended. Loud bangs could be heard outside the residence. The staff were dead before they could scream. The Hudson family, Alicia, as well as Henry were all terrified when they saw Robert killing those staff in a fit of rage. The other staff were even more frightened now. Very quickly, the soldiers who had just executed the staff came back inside. "Sir, the staff had all been executed," the leader said with a salute. "Good," Robert nodded. Then, he looked at Alicia and asked, "Alicia, do you still want to continue resisting?" At this moment, Henry suddenly came back to his senses. "Alicia, you're really fearless. How dare you splash your drink on General Vadesia? Hurry up and apologize to him." "You want me to apologize? Over my dead body," Alicia said. "Alicia, are you really not afraid of being killed?" Robert asked. "Enough with that nonsense. I'll never apologize even if you were to kill me." Alicia would rather be killed than to be taken advantage of by an asshole like Robert. "What makes you think you have a say in anything? Who do you think I am? Also, you're also Caspian's cousin-in-law. I could still use you," Robert teased. "What are you planning to do?" Alicia asked. "I want to play with you and let Caspian see how you moan under my crotch," Robert said coldly. Alicia was so frightened that her entire body trembled. Henry was also shocked. It was true that he wanted to defect to Vadesia, but he didn't want to see Alicia be degraded by a foreigner. "Record a new video. Take the video of me fucking Alicia and be sure to record the entire thing," Robert said to the soldiers who were beside him. "Yes, sir." The soldier holding the camera nodded before he started recording again. "Pin her on the ground," Robert ordered. Chapter 572 Toying with Alicia. The Vadesian soldiers lifted Alicia directly and placed her on the ground. Alicia was so petrified that she turned pale. What was Robert planning to do? Was he going to mess her up in front of so many people? And he even planned to spread the video? How would she be able to carry on living in the future? When Hudson saw what was happening, they assumed Robert was going to force himself on Alicia. However, they dared not plead for Alicia. They only wanted to please Robert. "Beat her up! Hard!" Robert said. The Vadesian soldiers used the stock of their firearms to pound Alicia violently. Alicia cried out in pain. She was in so much agony from being pummeled that she couldn't fight back. Alicia realized that Robert planned to beat her up, not force himself on her. It didn't take long for her body to be covered in bruises. She even vomited some blood. "Stop hitting her! Please! Stop hitting her! General Vadesia, please let my sister go!" Henry fell to his knees before Robert and begged for mercy when he saw that Alicia was getting beaten up so badly. "Fuck off! Do you want me to beat you up as well?" Robert spat. The Vadesian soldiers never stopped the beating. Richard and his family remained on the sidelines without saying anything. Henry went to Robert and hugged the latter's thigh, begging desperately for mercy. "General Vadesia, please be generous and spare my sister. She'll get beaten to death at this rate. Henry, don't grovel to someone like him. I'd rather die than be submissive to the enemy's general," Alicia proclaimed loudly. "Continue beating the shit out of her. We'll see if she still dares to be so bold." He glanced at Henry and kicked him hard, saying, "Shit, give this piece of shit a beating, too." Upon hearing Robert's order, the Vadesian soldiers began to shift their target toward Henry. The pair of siblings wailed in pain as they were getting pummeled. The soldier holding the camera recorded the entire process. Meanwhile, countless fighter planes from West Eredlands were flying to the South Eredlands war zone. Caspian and the armored battalion were on these fighter jets. Benjamin went to the airport in person to welcome Caspian when he heard that Caspian was rushing back to South Eredlands. The fighter jets quickly landed at the airport. Caspian exited the airplane while getting swarmed by the crowd. Macy and the armored battalion had been protecting him closely. As soon as he alighted the plane, Benjamin and the South Eredlands soldiers lined up to welcome him. "Lord Caspian, you're finally back. We've been waiting for you for a long time," Benjamin said with a smile. "I've only been away from South Eredlands for 2 days, so how did the enemies already manage to invade South Lake City?" Caspian asked, extremely displeased. "The enemies came prepared. Besides, the raid was too strong. We couldn't defend ourselves against it at all," Benjamin said, rather helplessly. "How's the situation now?" Caspian asked. "The enemy troops have already surrounded South Lake City. The enemy generals Robert Vadesia and Victor O'Brien have also entered the city. Our soldiers are resisting progressively, but the outlook is bleak," Benjamin reported to Caspian. Then, both of them left the airport and entered the command center of South Eredlands. Macy and the armored battalion stood guard outside. Meanwhile, at the Hudson residence, Alicia was beaten up really badly to the point where she was covered in blood. It seemed like her life was hanging by a thread. Henry was in an equally miserable state. He was only planning to defect to Vadesia. He had never imagined that he would end up like this. It was at this moment that Henry's phone rang. The Felinian soldiers were still beating him up. Henry took his phone out with difficulty. It was his father, Donald, who had called him. "Dad!" Henry wailed. "What's the matter, Henry?" Donald asked as he heard that something was wrong. "Ouch! Dad! Alicia and I are getting beaten up. Ouch!" Henry wailed bitterly. Robert didn't have his man snatch Henry's phone away. "What happened? Why are you getting beaten up?" Donald asked, puzzled. "It's the people from Vadesia. Dad, please find a way to save me," Henry pleaded. Donald was very surprised to hear this. He asked, "Didn't all of you leave South Lake City? Why would you be getting beaten up by the Vadesians?" "Ouch! We are still at the Hudson residence. Ouch!" Henry answered in between the cries. "Didn't you say that you're already on the road? Why would you still be at the Hudson residence?" Donald was getting perturbed when he heard his son's screams. "Dad, stop asking. We've been captured by Robert Valles, the champion of Vadesia. Only Caspian can save us. Please ask him for help, or we'll be dead," Henry yelled. Henry finally realized how significant Caspian's identity was. Caspian was also a 5-star general. Only he could save him. What? What's really going on? Why would all of you be captured by Robert? Donald was taken aback to hear that his son had fallen into the hands of the enemy. Robert was a champion who killed without batting an eyelash. Robert came to the Hudson residence. He ended up taking a liking to Alicia, but she wouldn't return the favor. "Because of that, they're going to beat us to death," Henry said. As soon as Henry finished his sentence, his phone was smashed to pieces. Henry! Hello?" Donald shouted into the phone. Unfortunately, Henry's phone had already been obliterated. No matter how loud he shouted, there was no use. "What happened?" Melinda, their mother, asked. "Henry and Alicia have been captured by the Vadesians," Donald replied. "What? Weren't they already on their way here to Garthram?" Melinda asked, utterly surprised. The other members of the Stewart family were all shocked to hear this as well. "I'm not sure either, but Henry just told me that he and Alicia had been captured by Robert Valles, the champion of Vadesia. The only person who can save them now is Caspian," Donald said. "What's actually happening? Weren't Henry and Alicia on their way to Garthram? Why would they be captured?" Marilyn was also really anxious now. "Henry said that they're still at the Hudson residence. He lied to us. He'd never intended to leave South Lake City at all," Donald said. "I can't believe he lied to us. Everybody couldn't wait to leave South Lake City. I can't believe he was still at the Hudson residence. What on earth was he thinking?" Marilyn trembled with anger. "Henry's at the Hudson residence? Does that mean the Hudson family didn't leave South Lake City as well?" Melinda asked. "The Hudson family must still be in South Lake City. Why else would Henry and Alicia be at their house?" Kate said. "Does the Hudson family have a death wish? South Lake City is on the verge of collapsing. Are they not afraid of danger?" Marilyn asked. Chapter 573. Caspian was livid. "There must be a reason why the Hudson family hasn't left South Lake City yet," Donald said. "What is it?" Marilyn asked. "The Hudson family must be thinking of joining Vadesia," Donald said. Everyone was shocked to hear this. Why would they even think of joining the enemy? What if the enemy's army kills them? Marilyn asked angrily. "Let's not bother about that. Henry and Alicia have been captured. They may be in danger. What should we do now?" Melinda asked anxiously. "With South Lake City surrounded by the enemy and Henry and Alicia held captive, there must be Felinian soldiers standing guard by Robert's side. Is there any way we can rescue them?" Marilyn was at a loss as to what they could do. Yeah, Diatoran could not even defend itself against Vadesia's attack. "We are unarmed. How are we going to rescue them?" Kate asked. "Henry and Alicia are in danger now at the Hudson residence. Why didn't the Hudson family protect them?" Donald asked. "It's too late to say anything now. Henry has already said that only Caspian can save him now. We might as well hurry and find Caspian. Otherwise, both of them will be beaten to death," Melinda said. "Alicia and Henry have always been on bad terms with Caspian. So why would he even help them?" Donald asked. "That's true. Caspian and Willow are no longer a part of our family. They must want to see us suffer now," Kate said. "Caspian is the warrior of Diatoran. Why would he be petty over these things? He'll surely come to their rescue," Carl said. "Isn't Caspian still at West Aridlands?" "We can't reach him either," Marilyn said anxiously. "Yeah, Caspian's a 5-star general. We wouldn't be able to find him even if he returned to South Lake City," Kate said. "What choice do we have? Henry and Alicia will die if we drag this out." Melinda was worried sick. All of the Stewart family members looked at each other. They didn't know what they could do and were all distraught. Meanwhile, at the Hudson residence, Alicia and Henry had been beaten up so badly that they were now covered in blood. Both of them had passed out. "Stop! Keep them alive!" Robert quickly stopped the soldiers when he saw that the two of them had become unconscious. The Vadesian soldiers immediately stopped. Robert smiled at the video camera and said, "Caspian, do you see this? Alicia and Henry are dying. If you're a man, you'd better come and save them. As for your wife, she'd be moaning under my crotch sooner or later." Robert then asked his men to stop recording and did a simple processing of the video. "Immediately have the footage of me holding Alicia and the one where the two are getting beaten up sent out," Robert ordered. "Yes, sir." Meanwhile, Caspian and Benjamin, as well as the others, had just finished discussing the countermeasures in the South Eridlands war zone. It was at this moment that an intelligence officer rushed in. "I have something to report, Lord Caspian." "What is it?" Caspian asked. "Robert, the champion of Vadesia, has posted a video that seems to be intended for you," the officer reported. "Oh, really? What's the video about?" Caspian asked. "Robert has captured Lady Willow's cousins, and they have been beaten up badly. Robert has also made bold claims that he plans to harm Lady Willow," the intelligence officer reported. "Is there a video? Let me see it," Caspian said calmly. "Yes, Lord Caspian." The intelligence officer took a tablet out and played the video. The video started with the footage of Robert holding Alicia in his arms while drinking. Robert had even taunted, "Caspian, do you see this? Your wife's cousin is in my arms. In a few days, I'll have your wife captured as well. I'll have a lot of fun with the two cousins. Caspian, Caspian, only you can save me." Alicia's pleadings could also be heard coming from the video. Caspian was already furious when he finished watching the footage. Robert had crossed the line by committing such vile acts. What infuriated Caspian the most was that Robert had even mentioned he wanted to harm Willow. There was no doubt that Caspian would be very angry. Even though Willow had already severed ties with the Stewart family, it was a different story for the outsiders. They would definitely think that the cousin of Lord Caspian's wife had been degraded. If this matter were to spread, everybody would definitely be gossiping about it. Caspian looked dispirited. Based on the footage, Caspian could make a guess about what went down. It was useless even though Alicia was fighting back with all her might. Moreover, members of the Hudson family just stood there and watched without any intention to intervene. It was obvious that the Hudson family had defected. Why else would Robert coincidentally show up at the Hudson residence? It seemed like the Hudson family had even prepared a banquet for Robert. They acted indifferent even when they saw that Alicia was being taken advantage of. Indeed, Caspian didn't have a good impression of the Stewart family, but it was rare to see Alicia stand her ground. Even without this relationship between them, Alicia could still be regarded as a good citizen of Diatoran. There was another video. In this footage, Alicia was surrounded and getting beaten up badly. Henry was kneeling before Robert, begging him desperately. "Henry, don't grovel to someone like him. I'd rather die than be submissive to the enemy's general." Alicia spoke with conviction. Robert became furious and began asking his men to beat Alicia up. At the end of the video was Robert's proud face, shouting, "Caspian, do you see this? Alicia and Henry are dying. If you're a man, you'd better come and save them. As for your wife, she'd be moaning under my crotch sooner or later." After having watched all the videos, Caspian was absolutely livid. Robert was openly challenging him. Caspian was the leader of the 5 war gods of Diatoran. If he couldn't rescue his wife's cousins, how would he still be deserving of this title? Even though Robert had not made his move on Willow, he clearly had this intention. Caspian would never tolerate Robert's crimes. While it was true that he and Willow had already severed their ties with the Stewarts, this wasn't the case for the outsiders. It didn't matter if Alicia and Henry were killed. However, Robert had openly challenged him. If he did not come forward, he would definitely be ridiculed by the people of Diatoran and Robert himself. When that time came, Caspian would completely lose everyone's respect. Alicia had usually rubbed shoulders with the rich and powerful and was unreasonable. She had also often targeted him. However, in the end, these were personal grudges. The matter at hand concerned national affairs. The fact that she would rather die than surrender was touching. If Alicia had begged Robert for mercy, then Caspian would definitely not have bothered about this matter. However, Alicia had been very persistent in standing her ground, which was really admirable. "Lord Caspian, how do you plan to deal with this matter?" Benjamin asked. Chapter 574 Robert's Assassination. Assemble a team of special agents immediately. I will lead them to the Hudson residence and have Robert killed, Caspian said. Lord Caspian, you plan to lead a team of special agents to the Hudson residence? Benjamin asked, surprised. That's right. Robert has openly challenged me. Wouldn't I be ridiculed if I don't show up? Caspian said. Caspian was the Diaturanian god of war. Naturally, he wouldn't be petty about the things of the past. The urgent matter at hand was to get rid of Robert. Otherwise, he would definitely make a move on Willow. He would also bring harm to South Lake City. Meanwhile, the pair of siblings had already been knocked out at the Hudson residence. General Valles, the two siblings have already passed out. What do you plan to do next? Grant asked tentatively. Lock them up in the room for now. Keep them alive, Robert said. Okay, lock them up for the time being, Grant said. Yes, sir. The staff of the Stewart family had Henry and Alicia locked inside the room. These people had witnessed how cruel Robert could be. They didn't dare to be lax about it. Robert was already satiated by this time. He was preparing for arrest. However, as soon as he entered the room, his vision suddenly became sharper. He became wide awake as well. Sir, now that you've openly challenged Caspian, wouldn't that anger him? What if they assassinate you? A deputy general asked. Then he would have walked right into my trap. I provoked him on purpose, Robert said with a smile. Do you already have a strategy? The deputy general asked. Of course. Caspian may be the Diaturanian god of war, and has experience in fighting in hundreds of battles, but he has a fatal flaw, Robert said. Flaw? What shortcoming could it be? The deputy general asked curiously. He is a young and energetic person who tends to act impulsively, Robert said with a smile. He had a pretty good understanding of Caspian. Did you provoke Caspian in hopes that he would act impulsively? The deputy general asked. That's right. Once Caspian sees the video, he will definitely take the risk and come assassinate me, Robert said. I understand now. Caspian will surely die if he dares to show up. The deputy general nodded. Okay, enough with the ramblings. Have an ambush arranged immediately near the Hudson residence. If Caspian dares to show up, kill him, Robert said. Yes, sir, several lieutenants answered. Robert was also the champion of Vadesia. He would never fall for women's temptations. The scene from earlier was all an act. He did that to set up a trap for Caspian. Robert knew very well that he might not be able to defeat Caspian if he were to face him head-on. Therefore, he could only come up with a strategy. As long as he could destroy Caspian, the day for him to occupy Diatoran would be around the corner. Obviously, Robert wouldn't reveal this in front of the Hudson family. Even though the Hudson family had chosen to defect to him, they were still Diaturanians. To avoid making any mistakes, he had to keep this a secret. For this reason, he only revealed it to his subordinates when they were in the room. Sir, Caspian's the leader of the 5 war gods. Do you think he'd really risk his life to come and save Alicia? A deputy general asked. It doesn't matter. Even if he doesn't show up, he would definitely send his troops over. Caspian would become even angrier once we defeat those people. It would only be a matter of time before he explodes, Robert said. Incredible. This is such a good plan, sir, the deputy general praised. He was in awe. If Caspian doesn't show up, we'll hang Alicia outside the Hudson residence and wait for Caspian to show up, Robert added. I think that Caspian will definitely take the bait, the deputy general said with a smile. Go arrange it immediately, Robert ordered. Yes, sir! Several lieutenants left the room and began making preparations for their next agenda. Meanwhile, at the South Aridlands war zone, Benjamin was shocked to hear that Caspian planned to take the secret agents to South Lake City. You're the leader of the 5 war gods, Caspian. You mustn't take such risks, Benjamin advised. He's right. You're the chief commander. You still have to take charge of the overall battle. You must not be harmed. Otherwise, who's going to direct the battle in South Aridlands? John dissuaded. Our opponent has already openly challenged me. If I cower away and not show up, am I still deserving of this title? I have to show up no matter what. Even if it's not to rescue Alicia, I must teach Robert a lesson, Caspian said. Lord Caspian, please don't take any risk. Robert is also a famous champion. He probably posted the video to provoke you. If you were to bring the secret agents there now, wouldn't you be playing into their hands? Benjamin said. In such cases, the bystanders could see a clearer picture as they wouldn't be muddled by the confusing decision-making. He's right. Now that the enemies had already entered South Lake City, Robert might have set up an ambush, waiting for you to show up, John said. Should I just not do anything about it and just cower away? My wife's cousins have been captured by the enemy. Should I just turn a blind eye? Caspian snapped. Of course we have to save them. Our Lord shouldn't be provoked in vain. However, we must come up with a thorough plan, Benjamin said. That's right. We can come up with a plan. Otherwise, we would walk right into Robert's trap if we were to act hastily, John advised. Fine. Let's discuss the countermeasures. Caspian had calmed his emotions down. He, too, felt like he was being a little impulsive earlier. Benjamin and John were right. He still needed to oversee the overall battle. It would indeed be a little risky for him to bring the secret agents with him to go and assassinate Robert. Robert was a well-known champion as well. This opponent of his knew him very well. His goal was very obvious. He deliberately provoked Caspian to anger him. The men sat down again and began to discuss the strategies for the rescue mission. Caspian left the command room. He needed to calm down. Moreover, there was still an ongoing battle in South Lake City. Caspian also needed to mobilize troops and generals to take command. Inside South Lake City, Sylvia brought her subordinates and retreated to the north region of the city. There weren't many people left in her team. Most of them died in the battle, and many who were wounded were sent to South Lake City General Hospital. It was at this moment that the enemy troops wanted to attack South Lake City Hospital. The garrison near the hospital defended as much as they could. The injured soldiers who were still being treated ran out and began fighting, regardless of their injuries. The doctors were all frightened, but they couldn't evacuate. They had to treat the wounded. Caspian soon received the news about the hospital. He immediately contacted Sylvia. Sylvia, Caspian here, Caspian said. Caspian, where are you now? When Sylvia received Caspian's call, she got excited. I've already returned to the South Aridlands war zone, Caspian said. You're finally back, Caspian. Do you have any instructions for us? Sylvia asked eagerly. Chapter 575 Saving the Hospital. The enemy suddenly attacked South Lake City Hospital. Go to the hospital immediately to provide reinforcement. The hospital must be protected, Caspian ordered. Yes, Caspian. I'll head over immediately, Sylvia replied. After Sylvia hung up the phone, she rushed to the hospital with her subordinates. Near the hospital, troops from both sides started a fierce battle. The garrison at the hospital could no longer resist. We'd better leave quickly, a doctor said anxiously. We can't. There are a lot of injured soldiers. They'll die if we leave, Abel said. We won't be able to escape when the enemy breaks past the defense. Are you saying we should sit and wait for death? The doctor said. We're surrounded by the enemy. Where can we go even if we were to leave the hospital? We might as well treat the wounded patients here, Abel said. We're only human. Sure, we can treat illnesses and save people, but we'd only die if we were to stay, the doctor said. He no longer had the will to continue treating the wounded patients. Our duty as doctors is to treat illnesses and save people. The soldiers fought bloody battles to protect their families and the country. How can we give up on them? Abel said with conviction. The doctor felt a little ashamed. Abel was right. Dr. Hardison, the enemy troops are inhumane. It's better to let the women leave. Otherwise, they will be in grave danger when they take over the hospital, a male doctor said. Okay, have all the women in the hospital leave this place. The others must stay and continue saving people, Abel said after giving it some thought. Carmen, an intern at the hospital, was also treating the wounded patients. During this time, the gunshots outside were getting louder and louder. The enemy troops are getting closer. All the nurses and female doctors, hurry and leave the hospital, Abel shouted as he rushed toward the people. Dr. Hardison, why are you asking us to leave the hospital? Carmen asked, puzzled. The enemy troops are cruel. Once they break into the hospital, you and the other women would definitely be taken advantage of. So I need all of you to leave the hospital as soon as possible, Abel said anxiously. There was not much time left. The time frame for them to escape was getting shorter. There was not much time left for them. We won't leave. A lot of the wounded patients will die if we were to leave. We'd rather die here. If the hospital gets taken over, we'll kill ourselves. Yeah, we'd rather die than surrender. We will not retreat under any circumstances. Someone might come to our rescue. Carmen and the other female doctors had no intention of retreating. When Abel saw this, he was moved. You're all really amazing. Since you're reluctant to retreat, I hope you can be mentally prepared. Abel couldn't bring himself to persuade them after seeing how determined they were. The female doctors and nurses nodded. Some of them were holding syringes. and some of them were holding scalpels. If the hospital were to be taken over by the enemy troops, they would directly choose to kill themselves. Everyone continued to treat the wounded patients. As the Inspector General, Joey had also led her subordinates to fight against the enemy. The people of South Lake City were now united in their hatred toward the enemy. Even though the equipment of the inspectors wasn't great, they wouldn't evacuate now. Joey was near the hospital. "Chief Sanders, there seems to be a fight at the hospital," said one of the inspectors. "Let's go. Let's hurry over there and see what's going on," Joey ordered immediately after hearing gunshots. "Yes, ma'am." The inspectors rushed out, following Joey. There weren't many troops near South Lake City Hospital. Hence, they couldn't hold on for long. Some of the soldiers from the enemy troops had now entered the hospital. The doctor who was treating a wounded patient was also frightened. The nurses and female doctors were now terrified. When the enemy soldiers saw the nurses and doctors in their uniforms, the depraved side in them came alive. "Keep the women and kill everyone else," the leader of the enemy troop said. The nurses already had their syringes prepared. If the enemy soldiers planned to do anything to them, they would end their lives on the spot. Carmen certainly wouldn't want to be taken advantage of as well. She picked up the gun of a wounded soldier and prepared herself. Suddenly, gunshots could be heard coming from the outside of the hospital. Screams, one after another, could be heard as well. A lot of the enemy soldiers in the hospital collapsed to the ground. The doctors and nurses, who had been preparing to kill themselves, were stunned to witness this scene. At that moment, a woman with an imposing manner rushed in with the inspectors. This woman was Joey Sanders, the Inspector General. Joey had already rushed over with her people during the critical moment earlier. When she saw the enemy troops entering the hospital, she immediately ordered the inspectors to open fire without any hesitation. "Joey, why have you come here?" Carmen was pleasantly surprised to see the inspectors. "I was nearby when I heard that there was a fight starting near the hospital, so I rushed over with my people," Joey said. The enemy troops continued entering the hospital. "Let's fend off the enemy first." Joey wasn't in the mood for small talk now. She led her men and launched an attack. The sound of gunshots filled the air. Joey led her subordinates and began to fight against the enemy. The enemy soldiers who ran in didn't expect that the inspectors would be in the ward. Before they could even prepare themselves for it, they were shot, collapsing to the ground. When the enemy came to their senses, they began to hide behind their shield and launched their attack. "I need all of you to leave first," Joey said to Carmen and the others. "It's full of enemies outside. How are we supposed to go out?" Carmen asked. "Look for a safe place to hide then, or hide under the bed to avoid getting hurt." Joey also knew that it was impossible to get out of the hospital now. The hospital was now surrounded by the enemy troops. She was able to rush in with her team of inspectors because she knew about the back entrance of the hospital. Carmen and the others nodded. Some of them lay down on the ground, while some of them hid under the bed. All the soldiers guarding the hospital had been wiped out, leaving only Joey and the inspectors. The enemy troops came prepared. Moreover, their attacks were aggressive. Joey and the others couldn't defend themselves against their attacks. "Chief, why don't we withdraw from this place? Our entire team will be annihilated at this point," one of the inspectors said. "We can't. If we leave, what will happen to these doctors and nurses?" Joey said. "If we continue resisting, we will be devoured by them," the inspector said anxiously. "Even if we were to die in this battle, we must hold on until the very end," Joey said with a determined look in her eyes. "It seems all of us have no chance of survival," an inspector sighed. He was a little bit frustrated. "Don't be discouraged yet. There will be soldiers coming to assist us. Let's hold on for a little while longer," Joey said. However, she didn't know if there would be anyone coming to their assistance. She only said that to encourage her subordinates. The inspectors all nodded their heads. For now, they could only give it their best. Sylvia led the troops to the hospital. However, she had already heard gunshots coming from inside the hospital. "Pick up the pace," Sylvia ordered. Chapter 576 Annihilate the enemy's troops. After hearing Sylvia's orders, her subordinates began to pick up their pace and rush to the hospital at full speed. Inside the hospital, both sides were already embroiled in a fight. The shootout was very intense. Joey and the inspectors were fighting the enemies to the death. However, many of the inspectors were shot and killed. There were also doctors and nurses who picked up the guns of the wounded soldiers. However, since it was their first time using guns, their aim was not good. It was difficult for them to aim accurately at the enemies. The situation had become very dangerous. "Chief, you said that there are people coming to our rescue, but there's no movement outside at all," one of the inspectors said. "Just hold on a little while longer." "They'll arrive soon," Joey said. "Half of our men have already been sacrificed. If we carry on, we'll be completely wiped out." The inspector was distressed. If no reinforcements were coming, it was better for them to withdraw from the place as soon as possible. This way, they could at least retain some energy. "There's no possibility of us retreating anymore. We can only fight to the death. Even if we are to die here, it'd be our honor," Joey said. Gunshots never ceased firing. Screams came and went. The battle between the two sides kept going on. "Fight them till the end," Joey cried out as she saw the enemy troops drawing nearer to them. They could only fight them in close quarters. The doctors and nurses could not do anything to help as they watched Joey and her team fight the enemies desperately. The nurses had even prepared themselves for the worst. If Joey and the others could not hold their defense, they would choose to end their own lives. Since she had already run out of bullets, Joey began fighting the enemies with her bare fists. Even though she was a woman, she had extraordinary skills. Many of the enemy soldiers were no match for her. Back then, when Joey was at the cliff of death, she managed to resist against thousands of Flying Dragons members for an extended period of time. The enemy soldiers might be trained, but Joey would not be in the losing position that quickly. Joey's movements were deft and quick. She managed to snatch a short knife from the enemy's hand. With a sharp blade in her hand, she killed even more intensely. When the inspectors saw how brave Joey was, they became excited. The doctors and nurses saw a glimmer of hope when they saw Joey killing the enemy's soldiers to the point where they were unable to fight back. Unfortunately, she was only human. She could not fight off so many soldiers. The enemy's soldiers kept increasing in number to the point where she was surrounded. Joey was in a tight situation. The enemy troops slowly approached her. Suddenly, gunshots were heard. In a fleeting moment, the gunshots outside the hospital became more and more intense. Following the gunshots were screams that came one after another. The doctors and nurses were all frozen in their spots, not understanding what was going on. Logically speaking, there were only enemy troops outside. Carmen had even prepared to kill herself. "That must be the reinforcements. Everyone, follow me and let's kill them all," Joey cried out loudly. Suddenly, the cries of the enemy's soldiers could be heard coming from outside. It was obvious that someone was killing them. The inspectors who were fighting became invigorated when they heard Joey's voice. Gunshots and screams could be heard. Joey was right. There were really reinforcements coming to them. The gunshots coming from outside the hospital came from Sylvia's troops. Sylvia led her men to the hospital and immediately began fighting the enemies. The enemies did not expect to be ambushed in the end. It was hard for them to defend themselves. When they finally realized what was going on, half of them were already dead. "Destroy all of them! Avenge our soldiers!" Sylvia roared when she saw the corpses of Diaturanian soldiers on the ground. They opened fire intensely. Sylvia's subordinates attacked the enemy violently. Within a few minutes, the enemy troops were wiped out. When Sylvia saw this, the first thing she did was rush into the hospital. As soon as she entered the hospital, she could see that the enemies had Joey surrounded. Since there were many doctors and nurses around, Sylvia did not dare to shoot randomly in order to avoid accidentally injuring the others. She took out the dagger from her leather boots and charged forward. As a general officer, Sylvia had experienced hundreds of battles. Her strength far exceeded that of Joey's. Sylvia's men were not idle either. They started fighting with the enemy. The enemy's troops had now become confused. Joey also cheered up when she saw a general officer like Sylvia coming to their assistance. The two worked together in perfect harmony and killed the enemy to the point where they could not fight back. It only took a few minutes for Sylvia and Macy to obliterate all the enemy troops that had invaded the hospital. "Joey, why are you here?" Sylvia asked. "I was nearby when I heard gunshots coming from the hospital. That's why I led my subordinates here," Joey said. "I see. Thankfully, you came over and held them off. Otherwise, the hospital would have definitely been taken over by the time we arrived," Sylvia said. "What about you? Why did you come?" Joey asked out of curiosity. It was a coincidence. She did not know that reinforcements would come. "Lord Caspian ordered us to come over," Sylvia said. "Lord Caspian? Do you mean Caspian Lynch?" Joey asked. Previously, Caspian had appeared in South Lake City in an armored vehicle. Almost everyone had come to know that Caspian was not an ordinary person. "Yes, that's him. Nobody would dare to call themselves Lord, Sylvia said with a smile. Is Caspian still at West Eredlands? Joey asked. He has just rushed back to the South Eredlands war zone. He needs to command the battle here, Sylvia answered. I didn't expect Caspian to be this brilliant. I can't believe he's the god of war. So why did he want to be the Stewart family's son-in-law? Joey asked, slightly baffled. When the nurses and doctors saw it was no longer dangerous, they began to resume their treatment of the wounded patients. Many of the nurses cried when they saw many soldiers had gotten injured. Everyone, keep your chin up. Wars are cruel. We must now be united and stand against the enemies, Joey said, with a look of determination in her eyes. Chief Sanders, now that the enemies have entered South Lake City, do you really think that we can fight them off? Carmen asked. For now, I can't say for sure how things will pan out. One thing is for sure, though the final victory will definitely belong to us. Joey might be giving encouragement, but deep down, she was also feeling unsettled. The enemy troops moved very quickly and inundated South Lake City within a very short period of time. The battle had become complicated and confusing. Let's not be discouraged. Everyone, Caspian, our Diaturanian god of war, has already rushed back to the South Eredlands war zone. As long as he is in charge, victory will definitely be ours. Sylvia said this to encourage the people when she saw that they were feeling down. When Carmen heard Sylvia's words, her admiration for Caspian grew even more. Even though she had not met Caspian many times before, she had long been. When she learned that Caspian was the Diaturanian god of war, she completely fell for him. At this moment, Sylvia's phone rang. It was Caspian. Do you have any orders for us, Lord Caspian? Sylvia answered the phone immediately, not daring to be lax about it. How's the situation over there at your side? Caspian called, wanting to know if the hospital was safe. He had been worried about the situation at the hospital. Chapter 577 Meticulous Plan. It's been handled. We've eliminated all enemies, Sylvia said. That was fast. Great work, Caspian praised without hesitation. It was all thanks to Chief Sanders that we were able to deal with it so quickly. She had led her subordinates to watch over this area. We worked together to annihilate the enemies. Sylvia was not the kind of person to covet credit. She gave a brief explanation about the situation here. Is that so? You're saying that Joey led her team of inspectors and joined the battle? Caspian asked, feeling rather surprised. That's right. If it wasn't for her leading her subordinates to guard this place, I'm afraid it would have been too late by the time we arrived, Sylvia said. Joey is really the cream of the crop, Caspian praised. That's right. Back then at the Cliff of Death, she was the one who turned the tide. Indeed, she's really incredible, Sylvia said. If Joey could be trained systematically, she would definitely become very strong. I got it. When the war is over, I'll reward you based on your merits, Caspian said. Lord Caspian, although we've destroyed the enemy, the entire garrison at the hospital has been killed. These invaders are really despicable, Sylvia said with indignance. Sooner or later, I'll make them pay a heavy price, Caspian said through gritted teeth. Lord Caspian, what should we do next? Sylvia asked. All of you should just stay at the hospital, lest the enemies show up again, Caspian instructed. Yes, Lord Caspian. At the South Eredlands war zone, Benjamin, John, and the others had already come up with a strategy to rescue Alicia and Henry. Their plan was for Task Force Rose to find out about the situation on Robert's side. There would definitely be enemy troops setting up defenses outside the Hudson residence. First, they would determine the locations of the enemies in the periphery of the residence and kill them stealthily. Then, they would dispatch some soldiers to barge into the Hudson residence at lightning speed. Caspian thought this strategy was pretty good and planned to implement it. Not bad. Let's just go with this plan, Caspian said. Lord Caspian, as the vanguard will be barging into Hudson residence, they need a good team leader. Who do you think is suitable for this position? Benjamin asked. Macy Osborne, Caspian said. Caspian was familiar with Macy's abilities, even though she was usually aloof. She was never imprecise when it came to executing her tasks. Macy Osborne? Is she familiar with South Lake City? Also, if she were to be the leader, would the others be dissatisfied? Benjamin asked. That's not a problem. We'll let the members of Macy's Phoenix Vanguard team come over. They'll be able to build rapport if they carry out the operation together. But the situation's critical now. It'll take time for the Phoenix Vanguard team to rush over there, Benjamin said. We'll have Task Force Rose evaluate the enemy's quarters first. By that time, The Phoenix Vanguard team would have almost arrived in South Lake City, Caspian explained. Yes, sir. We'll carry it out according to your arrangement. Benjamin nodded. The reason Robert had Alicia and Henry captured was to lure me. Their lives are not in danger for the time being. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Let's have a clear picture of the situation before we make any decisions. Caspian was also not in a hurry. Robert would definitely not kill Alicia and Henry before he got to meet Caspian. Lord Caspian's right. We mustn't rush this matter, Benjamin said. By the way, what should we do if there are reinforcements at the Hudson residence? We need a troop to hold out against the reinforcements. The reinforcement troop will definitely come forward if all the troops within the Hudson residence are annihilated. This isn't a trivial matter. We'll just leave it to the armored battalion, Caspian said with a stern expression. The armored battalion was a troop that was led by Caspian. Each and every single one of the members had gone through extremely rigorous training. They could handle any exigency that arose. Okay, let's have the armored battalion dispatched. Then, with them around, the enemy will surely be defeated, Benjamin said emotionally. This matter is just a sideshow. Our ultimate goal is to defeat Vadesia and Astronia, Caspian said with a calm expression. The top priority was still to find a way to repel the enemy. Lord Caspian, do you have any feasible plans? Benjamin asked. Yes. Even though the enemy troops have entered South Lake City, they're fighting in a disorganized manner. Now that Estria has been repelled out of East Eridlands, let's have the maritime troops from East Eridlands be their reinforcements. This way, the enemy's escape route can be cut off. When the time comes, they'll have no reinforcements. They'll surely die in South Lake City, Caspian said. He had already thought over the battle when he was at West Eridlands. Your idea is not bad, but even if the aviation battleships are to be dispatched, they might not necessarily defeat Vadesia and Astronia. The opponent's maritime troops are very powerful, John said. He suffered a lot when he was leading the maritime troops. What John said is right, Lord Caspian. Estria has just been repelled. If they find out that the troops have retreated from East Eridlands, they might come back. It would be bad if that happens. Benjamin also has his worries. You have a point, but we can use super large missiles to defeat the enemy, Caspian said. Lord Caspian, I'm afraid it will give rise to opposition from every country if we use super large missiles, Benjamin said. That's not a problem. We're just forced to fight back. Besides, does it have anything to do with them if the missiles explode in the waters of Diatorin? Caspian asked disdainfully. You're so wise, Benjamin praised. The enemy troops entered South Lake City, brutally killed our people, and committed arson and robbery. We must get rid of them completely. If we don't, it'll be a disgrace on our part, Caspian said through gritted teeth. I finally understand the gap between myself and you, Lord Caspian, Benjamin said. What gap? Caspian asked, puzzled. You're vigorous and resolute in your work, Benjamin praised. That's enough. Take command of the battle now, Caspian said with a smile. He had long grown tired of hearing such compliments. Yes, sir? Benjamin delivered Caspian's orders immediately. Phoenix Vanguard began their preparation of the ammunition and equipment. There was a tough battle waiting for them. All of the members in Phoenix Vanguard were female, with Macy as the leader. Under Macy's leadership, the Vanguard team created many miracles. Now that the plan had been finalized, Caspian looked at everyone and said, South Lake City is currently in a precarious situation. I'm going to command the battle operation in South Lake City. Everyone was a little surprised to hear this. Lord Caspian, it's very dangerous in South Lake City now. You must not put yourself in danger. Yeah, you're the leader of the 5 war gods. You only need to command the operations remotely. What if you're attacked by the enemy troops in South Lake City? Everyone started to dissuade him from going. That's enough. I've already made up my mind. Robert and Victor are also champions. If they can lead their troops in person, why can't I? Caspian said with a look of determination in his eyes. Chapter 578, Caspian's True Intention. The others remained silent after hearing what Caspian said. What he said made sense. The leader of the enemy's troops was personally leading the battalion. Caspian should also be able to do it since he was the Diatoran god of war. Robert and Victor are both known as the Invincible Champions. This is the perfect opportunity to fight it out, Caspian said. Lord Caspian, I'm willing to go to South Lake City with you, Benjamin said. There's no need to. You should just stay and command the battle at South Eridlands. Caspian rejected his offer. Lord Caspian, even you're going to the front line when you're the head of the 5 war gods. So why can't I? Benjamin asked. If both of us leave the South Aridlands war zone, who will be here to command the battle when something goes wrong? Caspian asked. Roger that. I'll obey your instructions. Benjamin nodded, not daring to go against Caspian's wishes. Then, Benjamin asked again, when do you plan to make the move? Time waits for no man. I'm going now, Caspian said. I'll have a very important person car send you to South Lake City, Benjamin said. There's no need. I'll just go there in the armored vehicle. Caspian refused the offer once again. Take care, Lord Caspian, Benjamin said. I hope you can do a good job in commanding the battle in South Aridlands, Caspian said before leaving the command center. Benjamin, John, and the others ran after him. They were preparing to send Caspian off. Caspian actually had something else in mind when he proposed to go down to South Lake City in person. He knew very well that the plan to rescue Alicia was very difficult, and that he would have to confront Robert head-on when the time came. Caspian had planned to take Phoenix Vanguard with him to compete against Robert in person. However, he could not reveal it. He knew that John and the others would definitely raise their objections again. That was why Caspian thought of this plan. As long as he could go to South Lake City, no one could interfere with his plan. Macy and the armored soldiers were waiting for him outside. Return to South Lake City with me, Caspian said as he looked at Macy and the others. Yes, sir, Macy and the others responded. Their duty was to protect Caspian's safety. As for what he planned to do, they would not ask at all. They had no right to question him. Meanwhile, the Stewart family was restless over the captivity of Alicia and Henry. We don't even know where Caspian is. We can't reach him as well. How are we supposed to rescue Alicia and Henry? Melinda was utterly anxious. The only option left is to find Willow. She might be able to contact Caspian, Marilyn said. That's right. Willow is Caspian's wife. She would definitely know where Caspian is now, Melinda said. She had a moment of sudden realization. Have you guys forgotten? Willow no longer has anything to do with our family. Do you think that she'll help us? Donald asked. Willow and Caspian might not hold a grudge against us over such trifling matters. Alicia and Henry are in grave danger now. If Caspian finds out about this, he'll surely come forward to their rescue, Carl said. Carl, please contact Willow and have her pass the message to Caspian, Donald said eagerly. Okay, I'll ask her, Carl said before dialing Willow's cell phone. Willow had not gone to sleep. When she saw her father's phone call, she answered it immediately. What's the matter, Dad? Willow asked. Willow, I have bad news, Carl said. What is it? Willow asked in surprise. Alicia and Henry have fallen into the hands of the enemy, Carl said. How could this happen? Didn't they already leave South Lake City? Willow asked in a rather surprised tone. It was true that she had severed ties with the Stewart family. Nevertheless, she was not a heartless person. Even though the capture of Alicia and Henry had no impact on her, she could not bear to watch it. I can't say for sure what actually happened. Anyway, they're all at the Hudson residence. They're being held captive by Robert, the champion of Vadesia, Carl said. What? They're at the Hudson residence? What's going on? Willow became even more confused. The Hudson family was preparing to defect to Vadesia. They held a banquet for Robert, but Alicia and Henry were both captured in the end. Carl ended up revealing everything he knew about the incident. Willow was stunned when she heard this. Alicia and Henry had actually fallen into Robert's hands. But there's no use in calling me either, Willow said. Only Caspian can rescue them. Willow, can you talk to Caspian and ask him to come forward to rescue Alicia and Henry? Carl asked. He's the Diaturanian god of war. Besides, he has an encrypted satellite phone. I don't know how to contact him either, Willow said. The Stewart family can only rely on you now. If Caspian doesn't show up, Alicia and Henry are going to die. I got it. I'll try my best to find a way, Willow said. Indeed, she had already severed ties with the Stewart family. Nevertheless, she could not just stand idly by at such a critical moment. Willow could still distinguish between right and wrong. I'll hang up first. Then, call me if you have any news, Carl said. Okay, Willow said before hanging up the phone. Willow was now feeling really anxious. Zoe, Alicia, and Henry had been captured by Robert, the champion of Vadesia. If Caspian doesn't show up, they're going to die. But I can't reach him either, Willow said anxiously. Didn't they leave South Lake City? Why were they captured? Zoe asked in surprise. I have no idea what's going on as well. But one thing's for sure, the Hudson family has renegated, Willow said. I can't believe they renegated. How outrageous. Zoe said indignantly. Hurry up and help me think of a way to get in touch with Caspian, Willow said. Have Finn try contacting Caspian. He might just have a way, Zoe said. Got it, Zoe? I'll look for Finn and give it a try, Willow said before getting ready to go look for Finn. Coincidentally, her phone rang right at that moment. The number on the phone was familiar. It was Caspian calling. Willow was a little surprised. She quickly answered the phone. Hubby, where are you? Why are you using your personal phone to call me? Willow asked excitedly, unable to control her emotions. The armored battalion was making preparations. This allowed Caspian to have some free time, so he called Willow. For the past few days, he had not been able to contact Willow. He missed his wife very much. I'm now at the South Aridlands war zone. I miss you. That's why I'm calling. I don't need the satellite phone for personal matters, Caspian said, smiling. Have you come back? I happen to have a problem that I need you to solve, Willow said rather anxiously. What is it, honey? Caspian asked. Chapter 579 To Live and Die Together. My dad called me earlier and told me that Alicia and Henry are being held captive by Robert. Only you can save them now, Willow said. I've heard about this already, Caspian said. Oh? So you've heard. Do you have a plan on how you're going to save them? Willow asked. She was worried that Caspian would not be willing to help because of what happened in the past. For this reason, Willow said, it's true that we've severed ties with the Stewart family, and Alicia and Henry have also always been causing trouble for us. But at the end of the day, we're all still a family. I don't wish to see them fall into the hands of the enemy. I understand. I'll handle this matter. There's no need for you to bother about it anymore, Caspian said calmly. Really? You're willing to come forward and help them, hubby? Willow did not expect Caspian to agree so quickly. She even found it hard to believe. That's right. When have I ever lied to you? Caspian asked. They were enigmatic and mean to you before. Aren't you bothered by that? Willow did not really believe that Caspian would forget about the past and save Alicia and Henry. I'm the Diatoranian god of war. Why would I think at their level? Sure, Alicia was captured, but she would rather die than surrender. For this reason, I'll save her. After all, she's still a citizen of Diatoran, Caspian said. How did you know about Alicia's incident? Willow asked, confused. The video of her being degraded by Robert was posted online. I've seen it, Caspian said. What? Something like that happened? What about Henry? Is he okay? Willow asked. He's fine. He's only suffered some external injuries, Caspian said. As for why the two were captured, Caspian was puzzled as well. However, now that Task Force Rose had already gone over to investigate, they should be able to get some updates soon. If Henry had also betrayed the nation and renegade, then he would be an eternal sinner of Diatoran. Caspian would never show mercy to people like him. Hubby, you must bring them back safely no matter what, Willow said. I got it. You don't have to worry about this matter anymore, Caspian said. Can I ask how you plan to rescue them from the enemy? Willow asked. No, this is classified information, Caspian refused. Even if Willow was his wife, he could not reveal the battle plan. Okay, I won't ask. Then, I'm now in Garthram. I miss you. When can we meet? Willow knew that Caspian was at the South Aridlands war zone, which meant he was on the outskirts of Garthram. For this reason, she really wished to see her husband. Willow felt really insecure now. She needed Caspian's consolation. Now that South Lake City is raging with war, I'll go there to command the battle. Let's get together when the enemy troops are defeated. There was no doubt that Caspian missed Willow as well. However, with the grave situation and the threat of the enemy in front of them, he had no time to chat lovingly with Willow. Are you going to South Lake City? Willow asked, surprised. That's right. South Lake City is now in great danger. I must repel the enemy, Caspian said. I'll go with you to South Lake City, then, Willow said. There are enemies everywhere in South Lake City. Why would you even go back? Caspian said. I don't care. I just want to be with you. I miss you. Let's go back to the villa. As long as you're with me, I'm not afraid of anything, Willow said in a rather stubborn manner. Fine. You can come if you really want to, Caspian said. Hearing this, Willow was stunned again. Caspian agreed so easily. She had expected that Caspian would never let her go to South Lake City. Caspian had his reason for letting Willow follow him. It would be the safest choice for Willow to be with Caspian. Even though there was an armored battalion protecting Willow, Caspian was still worried. Hence, Caspian wanted to keep Willow by his side. This way, no one would dare to harm her. I'll pack my things, and then I'll meet you, Willow said excitedly. Like a young lady in love, she could not wait to see Caspian. I'll lead the army across the bridge at the river. You just have to ask the armored soldiers to escort you and wait for me there, Caspian said. All right, I'll be waiting for you then. Hubby? Willow said before hanging up the phone. She told Zoe the good news. Zoe told Willow that she wanted to come with her. If she was with Willow, she would feel a little safer. After all, there were many soldiers guarding Willow. She would be terrified if she had to stay in Garthram alone. Both of them packed their things quickly and prepared to leave. Willow called Carl to let him know that Caspian was already thinking of a way to rescue Alicia and Henry. Carl hung up the phone and immediately conveyed the good news to the Stewart family. Caspian actually agreed to rescue Alicia and Henry so quickly. Doesn't he hate us? Marilyn asked, surprised. Could he be deceiving us? What if he's all talk? Melinda was still skeptical. She did not believe that Caspian would really rescue her children. Yeah. Is Caspian really that kind? Shouldn't he be wishing that all of the Stewart family members are dead? Kate asked enigmatically. You're all really looking down on Caspian. He is the Diatoranian god of war. Would he be so petty with insignificant people like you? Carl asked. After hearing Carl's words, all the family members of the Stewart family were stunned. Do you have any other choice now? Only Caspian has the ability to rescue Alicia and Henry. We must believe in Caspian, Carl added. Everyone was silent. Carl was right. They could only rely on Caspian now. I hope that Caspian is sincere and goes to help Alicia and Henry, Donald said. We've really been blinded. If we had treated Caspian well, our family would have already become prosperous long ago, Marilyn said. She had suspected that Caspian had a prominent background. She just did not expect that Caspian would be so powerful. Yeah. Who would have thought that Caspian had been hiding something all this while? As the Diatoranian god of war, he was willing to come and be the matrilocal son-in-law of our family, Melinda said. It's obvious that Caspian's love for Willow is unquestionable. Everything he had done was for Willow, Marilyn said. Meanwhile, Willow and Zoe had already packed their clothes. Under the escort of the armored soldiers, they were getting ready to cross the bridge of the river. At the South Eredlands war zone, the armored battalion had finished preparing. We leave immediately. The destination is South Lake City. Caspian swung his arms and shouted. Yes, sir. 60,000 armored soldiers began to leave for their destination. Countless armored vehicles and tracked vehicles departed for South Lake City with great momentum. Caspian and Macy rode in the same armored car. Chapter 580, rushing toward South Lake City. Lord Caspian, you're the head of the 5 war gods. Why would you want to risk your life and go to South Lake City? Macy asked, puzzled. I'm very familiar with the geographical location of South Lake City. If the enemy dares to do anything in South Lake City, I'll never forgive them, Caspian said firmly. Well said. This is the Lord Caspian I like. Once you show up, that crappy Robert and Victor will be defeated, Macy said excitedly. We mustn't be careless. When we go to South Lake City this time, we must be prepared for a bloody battle. I have a secret mission I need you to do, Caspian said. Please give your instructions, Macy said in a serious tone. Willow's sister and brother have been captured by the enemy. Robert did this on purpose to lure me into rescuing them, Caspian said. Didn't all the residents of South Lake City evacuate? The Stewart family should have already left South Lake City. How could those two be captured by the enemy? Macy asked, puzzled. It's still unclear as to what actually happened. But one thing is certain, the Hudson family has renegaded, Caspian said. What? The Hudson family has actually renegaded? Is your purpose in going to South Lake City this time to rescue Alicia and Henry? Macy asked. Rescuing them is just something we're doing in addition to our main goal, which is to repel the enemy forces in South Lake City, Caspian said. What do you need me to do? Macy asked. I need you to lead a vanguard team to barge into the Hudson residence and rescue the siblings, Caspian said. Seeing as he deliberately designed this scheme to lure you out, he'll surely have something prepared. If I go, won't that be a suicide mission? Macy was not stupid. If she went, it would be like walking into a death trap. Why? Are you scared? Caspian asked. I'm not scared. I just think it's not worth going when you know the other party already has something planned. Besides, Robert is not someone who's easy to deal with, right? Macy asked. Of course, Macy was not afraid. She just did not want to be sacrificed in vain. Don't worry, we already have a plan. We'll never put you in danger. Caspian did not reveal his true intentions. He had only wanted Macy to have some peace of mind. "What strategy is it?" Macy asked. "It's not the time yet. When we're about to make the move, I'll tell you the plan," Caspian said. "Okay. Where will the members of the Vanguard team be allocated from?" Macy asked. "They're already on their way. You're familiar with the members as well. They're from Phoenix Vanguard. When the time comes, you'll lead them to attack the Hudson residence," Caspian said. "Phoenix Vanguard? They're here as well?" Macy asked in surprise. "That's right. You've always been the leader of Phoenix Vanguard." Initially, there was no need for Phoenix Vanguard to join this battle. However, the situation this time around is an exception. "You'll definitely be able to work more smoothly when you lead Phoenix Vanguard," Caspian said. "Yes, sir, I'll definitely not let you down," Macy saluted. 30 minutes later, Caspian's troops in the armored car arrived at the bridge. Willow and Zoe had arrived here in advance. Both of them stood on the bridge. As they watched a group of armored vehicles approaching in the distance, they suddenly became very excited. There was no doubt that Caspian was in one of them. Caspian saw two people on the bridge. During this period, Caspian had been fighting in battles everywhere. He missed Willow very much as well. When the armored vehicle came onto the bridge, Caspian ordered the vehicle to stop. He then walked out of it. When Willow saw Caspian, she was extremely happy. She finally got to see her hubby. At that moment, Willow's emotions were jumbled up. She even burst into tears when she saw Caspian. "There's not much time. Let's get you in the vehicle first and then we'll take our time to talk," Caspian said. Time was running out, and they could not waste any more time. "Okay, Zoe, let's get in the vehicle." Willow took Zoe's hand and followed Caspian into the vehicle. Then, the armored vehicle convoy headed toward South Lake City. When Willow and Zoe got into the vehicle, they were very surprised to find Macy inside. At first, Willow was very excited. However, once she saw Macy, her expression changed instantly. "Why are you here, Macy?" Willow asked. "I have to protect Lord Caspian up close. I suppose there's no problem with me being here in his vehicle." "Yeah?" Macy answered calmly. Caspian rolled his eyes at Macy and explained, "Honey, Macy has also been sent by the higher-ups to protect me. Will she be following you closely to the point where she never leaves your sight?" Willow began picturing indescribable things in her head. Macy was good-looking. What if she were to seduce Caspian? Caspian was a little bit speechless to hear that. The two women confronted each other as soon as they met. "Willow, it's been a while since I've seen you. I missed you so much." Caspian looked at Willow and smiled. "Did you really miss me? Then why did you not contact me?" Willow asked. "I had no choice. The war situation is critical. I really couldn't get away from it," Caspian answered helplessly. He had been busy repelling the enemy troops in West Eridlands and had not slept for more than 10 hours in the past few days. How could he have the time to contact Willow? "You're lying. No matter how busy you are, I'm sure you have at least a few minutes of spare time." "All men do is lie," Willow said as she threw a tantrum. "Willow, Caspian is busy with official affairs every day. When he goes into battle to kill the enemies, there really is no way for him to escape. It's not easy for you to get together. So stop bickering already," Zoe advised. Willow thought that Zoe's words made sense. She was the wife of the Diaturanian god of war. She should not be stooping to Macy's level. "Hubby, do you have a way to rescue Alicia and Henry?" Willow asked. "Don't worry, I already have a countermeasure," Caspian said. Meanwhile, at the Hudson residence, Robert did not rest at all. He kept waiting for Caspian to appear. "I have something to report," the guard standing outside said. "Come in," Robert said. The guard entered the house and closed the door. "What's the matter? Tell me," Robert said. "I've got the latest information. Caspian has left the South Eridlands war zone. He's coming here to South Lake City with his armored battalion," the guard said. "That's great. The wait is finally over. It seems like Caspian can't hold back anymore," Robert said excitedly. "General, do you think Caspian will make the move himself?" the guard asked curiously. "He will. Pass down my order. Strengthen the patrols and vigilance. When Caspian appears, kill him," Robert said emotionally. "Yes, sir. We have another important matter to report. Caspian's wife, Willow, has also returned with Caspian," the guard said. "Oh, is that so? That works well. Then, I heard that Caspian's wife is an extremely beautiful woman. If Caspian dies, then his wife will belong to me," Robert said as he leered. His mind was filled with obscene imagery.